Hi, this is Angela with today's Cup of Tea. Well, I will keep this as light as possible. This can be a challenging subject, and it can be something that's going to hit the core of a lot of people because it's something that's really, really integrated into our society and our values and how our egos have worked throughout this existence. And that is the theme of parenthood and martyrdom. Um, Particularly many times motherhood, not necessarily because we've all been females, one life for another, um, but also, and that seems to be the role that's been played through the centuries. And there have been some role models that people have sort of put up there on these pedestals as the kind of person that you need to be, as to be defined as a good mother. Now, how many times have I talked about this? About putting definitions in creating boxes of saying, well, this is what a good thing is, and this is what that implies, that means that there's a bad part of that. Again, perception and ego. And it's a topic that is really, really important. Really, it was shown to me that it needs to be really focused on to release now, because there's so many who are waking up, and I work with so many mothers of young children and, well, even teenage kids and stuff, who have sort of lost their identity, who are trying to find themselves, and who are awakening and coming into their own power and realizing, wait a second, how can I do that and still be a parent? How can I still do that and still be a mother? I'm a mother. I have two teenage kids. And not only that, but it's just sort of, our society has taught women in general, and men, I don't want you to get turned off with this, because men have this to some degree too. Because like I said, we've all had lifetimes as female and as male. So we have that somewhere within us. When we have that tendency to overcompensate for our children, we have that tendency to feel like, I want to protect my child from what's going to hurt them. But here's the thing. Here's the key. And this is what came up to me this week that was really, really important. It isn't truly the danger that is the issue. It's the perception of danger, the perception of pain, the perception of anxiety and ails and stuff like that. How many times, it's so funny, how many times has parents, or parents or you or your parent, worried and worried and worried and worried about something, and then the child is just like, oh, okay, whatever. That happens so much. And right now, that's going on a lot, and I'll tell you why. I've talked about in the past how we're changing, and how our reality is changing, and how we are naturally evolving, and our reality is new. It's a new real, and I'm told again and again and again to let go of any expectation of what normality is. And the more I do that, the most amazing and magnificent things happen. However, things that happen today, that I understand today, are much different than how I would have understood them 5 years ago. And if this was shown, some of the stuff that I see today and I understand today had been shown to me 5 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to handle it. I would have been thinking it was horrific or terrible. And I see that sometimes when I talk about stuff, and I find a lot of humor and love, and I love to joke and play, as my guides do, Creator and my higher self does. So and there are many things that I'll do that with, and then people will just be looking at me like, that's just horrible. How can you laugh about that? It's funny, and this came up to me in a session this week. I have never been guided. I'm very, I guess, universal in many of the things that I talk about. And yes, I talk about the fact that I've seen Krishna and Buddha, and Jeshua is one of my guides, and has been one of my guides for a couple of years now. And yet I'm not tied to any belief system. And I really don't focus on the Christian faith. Funny enough, because, Jeshua is one of my guides. And yeah, we've joked about that. But the thing is, I got pushed in a session the other day to talk about Mary. And we were talking about this. And I said, okay, so, and I saw it really clearly, and I felt the nudge. Yeah, talk about it this way. If when, say, Mary had Yeshua, as he was called back then, she knew exactly what was going to happen. She knew exactly the outcome. And of course, you know, the story goes that that she was sort of given the spin. I call it the marketing spin. Oh yeah, he's going to be this great savior guy or whatever. He's going to help humanity and whatever that whole message was. But did she really understand what that entailed? You know, how many times are we told that we're going to do something or that something's going to happen, and we really we do look at that, you know, big optimistic picture, which is great, but then there are things underneath it. Well, if as a mother you looked at that, what would you say? You would say that would be horrible. That would be horrible to have to live through that as a mother. However, here's the thing. If you look at, that's looking at it from the mother's standpoint. That's looking at it from somebody you gave birth to, that you want to protect, that you want to not allow to get hurt. However, my understanding from Joshua himself was there was no pain, there was no suffering. The suffering is the perception of human, from the human perception. And in Christ consciousness, there is no suffering. Suffering is all from the ego. So, from a mother's standpoint, you'd say, I would want to protect my child from that. I would want to prevent my child from that happening. And yet, how do you know that from that child's standpoint that that is actually painful, that that's not something they signed up to do? So that's all this friction that we've got going on. Because I've talked many times about how our kids have come in. And, you know, when I went out to New Mexico last year and little grandmother was talking, we were talking about how there are no, you know, we don't really talk about the indigo kids or the rainbow kids or crystal or whatever, because we're trying to take the boxes out. We're trying to take out segregation and take out the walls and the things that separate us. Bring us all back together and realize we all are divine. We all have all of those abilities, every single one of us. And it's just the way we are playing them out here in this reality. And during this time, those of us in this I guess what they call this mid-adulthood thing, from 30s to like 70s, and it depends on where you are and what you've chosen to do, have chosen to be the facilitators of the change. Facilitators of the change. And we're the ones who are bringing in the change, changing reality, helping to change reality, helping to shepherd the kids along to get them there. The kids are the ones who came here to be the change. They came here to be in a world that is just forming today. What does that mean? They will adjust a whole lot faster and it'll be a whole lot easier. Yet people say all the time, they come to me and they're like, well, if we have this, when this happens or this changes or whatever, what's going to happen to my kids? And I always say, you know what? Don't worry about your kids. Your kids are going to be fine. They're going to be fine. But because we're looking at it from the old paradigm, we're looking at it from the old perspective, and we're looking at it from this agreement, this motherhood / parenthood agreement that, oh, you know, we must sacrifice ourselves for our kids. We must, you know, protect them. And, you know, and of course, you don't want any harm to come to your kids if you're coming from love. But you got to realize, too, that our times are changing really quickly. And so we are going to spend a whole lot of time, if we do that, wasting our energy on anxiety and fear and trying to prevent stuff for our kids and then losing ourselves in the process, which is what we've done in many respects. So something to consider, and there's a lot of discussion around this, and I'm just really hitting the tip of the iceberg, but it's really, really important for us to start looking at it, because I have had one situation after another come up with clients in the past several weeks. It's been amazing, and I was like, wow, yeah, that was my topic right there. I didn't have to think about it again. So our key now is to be here, to find our highest and best path. And yes, support our children with love, but also let them be who they're going to be. Let them show us. They're going to teach it. You know, I was told by one of the archangels a while back, several years ago, watch the children as they play. And I can't tell you how many things I have learned about how children have changed, how their perspectives have changed, just by listening to my two teenagers and their friends and how their friends interact, and how things are so much more easily accepted in many respects than they ever were before. So keep that in mind. And yes, we've been taught we have to do this. Many of us grew up in households where the mother was the martyr and she didn't have any time to herself and her identity was around the kids. And so therefore then we're sort of, women in many respects are brought up now. We're like, okay, we have to have a career. I want to have a career and I'm free to do that, but I still have to do all the other stuff and then I have no time for myself. So that's something to really look at. That's all part of this agreement. So I'm going to start on the agreement now. We're going to come back to this topic, I'm sure, in the future, but this is something for you to start churning and thinking about and releasing. So the first thing to release, I'm hearing, is the agreements on motherhood and the requirements and what we define as motherhood and parenthood too, because there are fathers who are like that too. So, would you like all the following without trauma, drama, or illness, without creating or recreating a situation for illustration or experience, and all with ease, grace, balance, harmony, joy, fun, excitement, adventure, love, and bliss? Would you like it for all versions of you, all times, all places, into the ever-expanding universe, to infinity and beyond? Would you also like all information to come via instantaneous and comprehensive download with fully conscious understanding in the moment, version, and timeline from which it is requested? And also, would you like all of Creator's truths and understandings, perceptions, and definitions to come to you, to become yours, to replace yours with Creator's, for divine alignment for all we're going to talk about? So, moving forward, would you like to release, dissolve, resolve, clear, and release all etheric binding agreements that are related to the requirements of motherhood and of parenthood? The requirements in terms of that you must sacrifice yourself in lieu of your children, that you must sacrifice your wants and needs in lieu of your children's, that is what defines a good parent, is sacrificing themselves or being martyrs in lieu of their children, and preventing themselves from finding their personal legend, from finding their highest and best path, so that their children can. Would you like to dissolve, resolve, release, and clear all of etheric binding agreements that require all that? See how it has served you from Creator. Get Creator's truth and understand how it served you, how it will serve you to be without them. Thank all parties involved. Open the doors to apology and forgiveness in all directions. Download the feelings of apology and forgiveness to and from all parties in all directions. And remove all beliefs relating to, and there is a ton of them, but I'm just going to go through some of them. Remove all beliefs related to these agreements, including, I am only worthy if I follow the definition of what a good parent is or a good mother is. I must sacrifice myself for my children. I must sacrifice what I want and need for my children. I have to do that. I must minimize my own personal goals for that of my children's. I'm not allowed to have my own personal goals. I'm not allowed to reach my personal high and best, my soul's purpose, as long as I have children. Wow, there's just so many things that go along with this too. Also, that I'm a bad person if I don't do that. I'm only a good person if I do. I'm a good person if I'm considered a good parent. I depend on others' opinions of parenting to define myself as a parent, to define myself as a person. I am supposed to lose a definition of myself by being a parent. Being a parent is required to be my definition. There's like a ton of those, but that's where to start. Pull all the anxieties, fears, regrets, rejections, resentments, and anger that are associated with those beliefs. Pull the energy and memory of those from the cellular level, as well as all self-limiting thoughts, words, and actions from the cellular level. Transform to Creator's light, send them back to Creator, close those receptors, open new ones, saturate the cells with the highest vibration of Creator's unconditional love. Then download the beliefs. I am a worthy person always. I am unconditionally loved no matter what kind of person I am. I can love my children and still find my soul's purpose. I can do that without trading one for the other. I can do both. I can find what's highest and best for me. I can also teach my children how to find what's highest and best for them without sacrificing myself. I can accept that their highest and best path might be different from my reality, and I might not understand that it's highest and best for them. And I can accept that. Acceptance of that. Creator's teachings about all of that. And to also then download the beliefs, I can trust in Creator and in my children's higher selves to guide them to their highest and best path, and that I can support them without feeling like I need to be protecting them and shielding them from everything. And all the feelings associated with all that. I know how to move forward without having to limit myself, without having to give up myself so that I can be a shield for my children. I know how to do that, and yet still trust that Creator will take care of them, that they will be taken care of in the highest and best way. Knowing how that feels, to trust that, to move forward knowing that, and to get the downloads of knowing that you're worthy, deserving, and able of that you are, that it's okay, possible, allowed, and safe to, that you're ready, willing, and able to, and that you have that in your life right now. Also, would you like then to heal, resolve, and clear the timelines in all directions to infinity with the violet and platinum flames, and also write off as complete in the Akashic records, offer to all ancestors and descendants as they so choose to accept. If you would like that, take a deep breath, clear your mind, be open to receive, and say, yes, Parenthood. And that's it. I went way over. This was really long. Have a great one. We'll talk to you next week. This is Angela with today's Cup of Tea.